Welcome to the FN251 or FN211 for the old versions of the curriculums. Okay. Before I start, I would like you guys to access to TU Moodle first. Could you please access to this site? You can type TU Moodle. Okay, in your Google, and then it will pop up right this once. So click this URL, access to this URL, and then you just type your username and password. Have you ever used this one before? No? Okay, so you should try. Because this is gonna be our main platform that we will use throughout this class, especially my module, okay, my modules. In this FN251, we will divide the course into three main parts. The first part is Ajahn Kancharat, right? Ajahn Kancharat, and Ajahn Bancha, okay? The second one is mine. And the third one is Ajahn Bancha too, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, I will access to this one. Okay, guys, when you access to TU module, could you please go to, I think, which one? I'm not sure for student. Okay, you go to this one. I'm not sure what should I call it in English. In Thai, it is รายวิชาทั้งหมด Okay, and then when you access to รายวิชาทั้งหมด you will find these topics. Okay, these topics. So you go to Faculty of Business School. Okay, Faculty of Business School, and then you just click this one, and it will navigate you to this one. Okay, academic year. So we click academic year 2020, and then you go to this one, semester one. Okay, semester one, and you will find this course BBA Financial Market, Financial Institution, term 1 2020. Okay, term 1 2020. Can you access to T-Model? Let's try. Let's try. And I think the enrollment key is BBA. Okay, enrollment key. BBA. Okay, BBA. Can you access to this one? I think you guys can access to this one already. Okay, when you access to this BBA, right? You will find that we're gonna have a Facebook group. This one. The Facebook group is like a dashboard that I will update you with the information about the course, or I will give you the recording because in the class, in every class, I will record the lecture, okay? And I will upload it on YouTube or somewhere, I'm not sure, maybe YouTube, and then I will post the link. I will post the link in the BBA module 2 on the Facebook group. If you cannot access to this group in this class, no worry. We will talk about this later on, okay? But today I will try to start and I will talk about the introduction of this module first. And then I will let you go because I know that you're gonna have the exam tomorrow. Some of your friends told me about this one, right? Or would you like me to finish the class at 12? It's up to you guys. Because you just, I know that you guys are very diligent students. Okay, now let's go to this one. You will find this one, intro, right? It is the class slide, class note. This one, and you can access to it. I will go to my version. You can ask your friends if you don't know what is Team Moodle because I just explained it already. Now, we shall begin. If you sit in the wrong class, please you can go out because this one is 211. Okay. Some people mistaken this class with the mathematics. Okay, financial mathematics and statistics because sometimes we just share the same course ID. Okay, this one is financial markets and financial institutions. In this part, in my part, the module 2, I will deal with the financial institutions, such as the commercial banks, mainly commercial banks, and the monetary policies. When the central bank, what is the central bank of Thailand? What is its name? What is the central bank of Thailand? I know that is Bank Chat, but you should know it in English. Bank of Thailand, right? The Bank of Thailand, BOT, the Bank of Thailand. Have you ever visited the site before? The Bank of Thailand, BOT. TH. Yes, you can call it Bank Chat, but it's Bank of Thailand. You should know this one. And you can switch this site to swap it into English. Okay, this one. If you have time, you should access to this site and you should take a tour on this one. And you can see that on this website, on the Bank of Thailand website, they will provide you with the key policy rate, which is the short-term, very short-term interest rate. The central banks will announce this key policy rate, and this key policy rate will influence all maturities of the interest rates, okay, in the economic system or in the financial system. So this is the very important one. Have you ever heard about key policy rate before? I think you guys may have heard about it before, okay? It is the very short-term rate. Its technical name is the RP 1 day, okay, RP 1 day. RP stands for repurchase, okay, repurchase. So this is the rate for the repurchase agreement, okay, repurchase agreement. And we will start how the central banks implement the monetary policies. I think you can ask your senior because a lot of students studied this course before. But in this module, I will somehow modify some lecture or modify some topics and make it more up to date. Okay, so this one is a key policy rate. Why is my lecture? Okay, this one. Okay, I will talk about the monetary policies, and the last one is the topics of the foreign exchange market. Okay, foreign exchange market. It is the place in which the demand and supply of the foreign currency determine the exchange rate. Okay, determine the exchange rate. Why exchange rate is so important? Because when you operate your business and suppose that you just borrow the money abroad, right? The changes or the behavior of the currencies will directly affect your cost. Okay, will directly affect your cost. So that's why we have to know the determinants or the factors that determine the movement of the foreign currency, key foreign currency. And before proceeding any further, I would like to recommend you guys to visit this site. You just go to Google and then you type PIER, okay, PIER, and you may type BOT, okay, after PIER. So you will be direct to this one, okay, Boy Ung Pakon Institute for Economic Research, okay. So you can click into this one, and then you will find this website. This website is really comprehensive in terms of research or in terms of the topics that related to current economic and financial issues.
ตอนแรกที่เราท่านผู้ชมต้องเซ็นให้เหมือนกันหมดใช่ไหมเก็บแล้วจุด
อันนี้เหมือนที่เราที่ปักแข่งคือแล้วว่าตอนที่มาสอนท่านแล้วขอบคุณค่ะ
Okay, we have a care kit here. So you should wear the mask, wearing your mask, because we will try to prevent us from the COVID-19. Okay, let's go to this one. On the peer website, you should access to this one. We call it TIDE, TIDE, stand for Thailand Integrated Database for Economics. When you click into this website, it will navigate you to very slowly navigate to this one, the center something. I don't know why I was talking with this one. It's supposed to be the website that gathers all time series data for macroeconomics. So let I consult with the person who take care of this site. Normally, it's when you access to the time, okay? The time will provide you with the comprehensive time series data for Thai economy. I would like to show you the Thai baht, okay? The movement of Thai baht. Suppose that, imagine that we can access to that site. For the time series of Thai baht, you will see the structural break, okay? The structural break during the 1997s. Why we have the structural break in the foreign exchange in Thai baht? Why? During the 1997. Do you have any idea why we have the structural break? Because it's cannot access to Thai now. Otherwise, I will show you the data. But this one, maybe let me try another keyword. Thai baht. Okay, let's go to this one. Okay, if we cannot access to Thai data, we should access to the world data. But instead, Thai baht. Okay, this one. I just took this graph from the St. Louis Fed. St. Louis Fed is a branch of the central bank in the US. Okay. In the US, we also have the central bank. We call that central bank the Federal Reserve System. The Federal Reserve System. Sometimes we call it the Fed. Okay, the Fed. But for Thai, we call it BOT. Okay, BOT. BOT. And as you can see from the graph, you can see that this graph records the movement, okay, the movement of Thai baht or the behavior of Thai baht. And you can observe this one because it is quite notable. This one is during 1997, I think. Okay, let me show you by narrow it down. It should go somewhere here. Okay, this one. You can see that during 1997, I think in July, right? In July, 7 months, in July, on 7th, you can see that this one, we call it the structural break, okay? The structural break, which is the change of the behavior of the Thai baht. Before 1997, you can see that the baht is pegged or is fixed at 25 baht per $1, okay? 25 baht per $1. But after the 1997, Thailand experienced what? What we experienced during the time? Crisis. Yes, we have a name. Okay. Asian financial crisis. Asian financial crisis. Okay, but we call it Tom Yam Goong. Okay, it's correct. Also correct. Thank you very much for your answers. Very good. For this one, you can see that after the financial crisis, baht jumps up to I think five some 55, okay, 55 baht, okay, 55 baht per $1. Suppose that you borrow the money from other countries before 1997, let's say $100, okay, $100. When you pay your debt back, you may have to pay 25 baht multiplied by $100, right? But after 1997, when you wake up in another day, you will see that you have to pay 55 baht multiplied by 100. So your debt burden is double, okay, by 100. So we call this one structural break. And that is why we have to study the market for the foreign exchange market because it's determined the values of the cost of operating your business. Okay, we will study this once in this course too. And the last one, we're gonna study the financial crisis also around the world. For the last topics, I think I will let you guys to give the presentation. But I will talk about the housekeeping policy next class, okay, next class, because I know that you guys gonna experience midterm exam, right? Weeks after this one. Okay, so now let's get back to our main slide. Okay, this one just only the first slide. This one I will talk later. Okay, this is the class schedules. Normally I will use 2 hours for the lectures, and then we're gonna have 30 minutes for exercise, 30 minutes for Q&A if we have. It is just straightforward. Okay. So I will have 2 options for you. Would you like to have 10-minute break, or would you like to, or we don't have break, but we will finish before 12? Could you please choose between 2 options? I will let you guys to choose. Would you like to have a break, or would you like to have both?
Do we need to decide today?
No. Next class. But I will give you the basic idea first. Okay. But normally I will go for option 2 because I will let you go before 12. Sometimes I will let you go at 11:55 or something. Okay. 5 minutes before 12. Okay, now let's see. This is online for this class today. In this class, I will talk about the basic structure, okay, the basic structures of the financial system, okay, of the financial systems, especially the direct finance and the indirect finance, okay, the direct finance and indirect finance. Have you ever studied the direct finance before this class? Have you ever heard about it before? What is direct finance? Any idea of the direct finance? Did you remember the topic that you studied in Ajahn Kancharat class? What we studied in her class? What we studied in her class? Did you remember?
The mechanic of equity market.
Sorry?
The mechanic of equity market.
Equity market. Thank you very much. And what?
And foreign exchange.
I think bond market, right? Have you studied bond? Okay, yes, bond market, market for bonds, corporate bond, okay, market for bond, market for equity. We call that one direct financing, okay, direct financing, because the borrower raise the fund or obtain the fund through the financial markets, right? Through the financial markets. In my part, I will talk about the indirect finance, okay, the indirect finance. The difference between the direct and indirect finance is the financial intermediary, okay, the financial intermediary. We're gonna have the third parties into our transaction, okay. So I will give you the overview of the financial institutions. We call financial institution FI, okay, FIs. And then we will move to the topics of the asymmetric information. For this topic, it is quite theoretical rather than practical. If you feel interested in economics, I think you may have studied this one before in microeconomics, because the asymmetric information is the subtopics in the chapter of market failure. I think market failure, because market fail to operate if we have asymmetric information in the system. And then we will talk about the adverse selection and moral hazards, which are 2 sources of market failure. Okay, 2 sources of market failure. And after that, we will talk about the tools that we implement to overcome the adverse selection and moral hazard. Right? Okay, this class is gonna be very theoretical. That's why I just put it in the first class. Okay, could you please give me some idea? Why do we have financial institutions? Or why financial institutions exist in the financial system. Any idea, please? Please, no worry, no right and no wrong. Everything is just perspective. Okay, no worry.
It's like a platform for people to make money or to borrow money.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, correct. We have the financial institutions because in the financial transactions, sometimes when we deal with the financial transactions by ourselves, those transactions are very costly, right? Very costly in terms of time and in terms of money. We have financial institutions because it will help us to reduce the cost in terms of time and in terms of money. The cost in terms of time and money comes from the asymmetric information. So we have financial institutions because asymmetric information exists in the financial system. Okay? So we have it because we have asymmetric information. And when we have asymmetric information, our financial transactions are very costly in terms of time and in terms of the money. And as your friend mentioned, the financial institutions operate, the objective or the goals of the financial transaction, the goals of the financial institutions is to maximize the profit, okay, maximize the profit. Every business objective is to maximize the profit. So the business of the banks or the business of the financial institutions may be a little bit different from other general business because bank borrow short, okay, borrow short and lend long, borrow short and lend long. Banks obtain the short-term funds from your deposit, and banks lend the money to people who borrow in terms of mortgage or borrow or the people who raise the fund to finance their business. Those transactions are long term, okay? So you will see that some notable features of this business is the maturity mismatch, okay? Maturity mismatch between the liability and the asset of the bank, okay? If you cannot understand what I talk, you can go back to your home, and then you can have a look at your at the video because I just recorded the video already. Because I see some of you feel a little bit confused when I talk about this one. So no worry in this class, just make yourself at home. But you should wear your uniform or something that make you look properly when you come to school. Okay, the second one. Direct finance is the most important source of funds. Do you agree or disagree with this prompt? Direct finance is the most important source of funds. Who agree with this prompt? Could you please raise your hand if you agree? Agree. Thank you. Agree. Why you agree, please? Any idea why you agree with this prompt? No worry, no right, no wrong. Everything is just perspective. You can talk to me. Why you agree with this prompt?
Most of the company using financial
Okay, thank you very much. Very good. Let I just start by distinguish between the direct finance and indirect finance first. When we talk about the direct finance, thank you for your answer. Very good. When we talk about the direct finance, we mean the transaction that the financial market that you have to operate the transaction through the financial market. Okay. When you would like to raise your funds, you need to raise or you need to finance your business through financial market. So direct finance will have the financial markets involved, okay, which is really different from the indirect finance. When we talk about the indirect finance, we mean financial institution. Okay, so first thing first, you need to distinguish between direct finance and indirect finance first. So this one, when we talk about the direct finance, we mean that let's put it in another way. We mean that financial market, okay, is the most important source of fund. So, thank you very much for your answer. And who disagree with this prompt? Who disagree? Answer please.
For me, I think that in a capitalist system, I think that people need to should be able to invest in the company, not only lending the money to the company to use the money.
Okay, thank you very much. Very good. I will explain you, okay, and your friends with the facts that I will show you here. Okay, thank you for your answers. And could you please, I would like to draw your attention to this slide and this one. You will see 8 basic facts, okay, 8 basic facts of the financial system, okay, of the financial system, or you can call it the financial structure throughout the world. When you understand all these facts, you will find the answers for the second question. Okay. The first one, stocks are not the most important source of external financing. When we talk about stock, we are talking about the financial market, okay, the secondary market, okay, and the primary market. The firms can obtain the fund by issuing the equity to raise the fund, right? But the channel is not the most important. We talk about fact, okay, not the opinion. Now we are talking about fact. Okay. And let's move to the second one. I will read from the slides and then I will give you an explanation for each fact. Fact number 2, issuing marketable debt, equity security is not the primary way, okay? This is not the primary way that the business finance their operation. So you can see fact 1 and fact 2 go together. Okay, they go together, they come together. Because when we talk about stock or marketable debt and security, we are talking about financial market. Okay, financial market. And the third one here, indirect finance. Indirect finance is many times more important than direct finance. Thank you for your song. Indirect finance is many times more important than direct finance, okay? We try to compare direct and indirect finance. In this class, you have to distinguish between indirect and direct finance, okay, by these facts. And fact number 4, financial intermediaries is the most important source of fund. When we move to financial intermediaries, we are talking about indirect finance. Okay, so fact number 1 to fact number 2, they are direct finance. Okay, fact number 3 is the transition to the direct or indirect finance. Direct or indirect finance? Indirect finance. When we talk about financial intermediary, we are talking about indirect finance. Because financial intermediaries, they are the third parties in our transaction. When we talk about the financial transaction, the basic structures of the financial transaction is the borrower and lender. Okay, if you borrow the money from your friend, we call that one direct finance. If you borrow the money from the bank, we call that transaction indirect finance, because the bank or the financial intermediaries is the third party in your transaction. Okay, in your transaction. So I think at this point you can distinguish between direct and indirect finance. Fact number 5. Okay, I know you guys, some of you guys just writing something. Okay. Okay, let's go. Fact number 5. Financial system is among the most heavily regulated sector. Okay, the keyword is heavily regulated. Fact number 6. Only large and well-established corporations. Only large and well-established companies can easily access to the financial market. Fact number 6. Switch to the financial market, which is the direct finance. Can you guess why only large and well-established corporations can easily access to the financial market? So,
They have credibility.
okay, credibility. Thank you very much. Other ideas about this one? Please, other people. Sorry. Low risk. Okay, thank you.
They have capital.
Sorry.
They have capital.
Capital. Okay, large capital. Right. Okay, thank you very much. Also, your answers and this word, large and well established. If you combine it together and you try to find the essence of this word, you will find that we are talking about the reputation. Okay, the reputation. The reputation. The reputation is the signals or is the information that the firms can send to the lender. The credibility, the capitals, low risk, everything is within the reputation of the companies. Okay, so you will see that only large companies can access to the market. You can imagine about this one. When you wake up and people from Google knock your door, and then they just borrow your money. And some other people from no-name company knock your door and borrow your people. Who you gonna give them the money? Google's or people from no-name company? Okay, typically, logically, you should give money to the Google because you know them. Okay, you know them. So we are talking about the reputation. Okay, reputation. Fact number 6. Reputation means information. Okay, means information. Fact number 7. Collateral. Is appearance features in the debt contract. What is collateral? What is collateral?
Something that you have to like back your.
Okay, I see. Thank you very much. No, I understand. Completely understand what you're saying. Collateral is something that when you cannot pay back your money to the lender, the lender will take the collateral, okay, instead of your money. So you cannot pay, the collateral will take this one in exchange, okay, in exchange. So if you have large collaterals, it means that you have large, it is like a large deposit. That if you cannot fulfill your agreement, the lender will take this collateral rather than just take the money from you because they know that you cannot give them the money. Okay? Especially this year, we lots of business in Thailand and worldwide, they are affected by the COVID-19, right? And you will see that the business that involve the dealer of the debt, I'm not sure how should I call it in Thai. If you are a die-hard fan of the stock market, I think you may have ever heard about the bank BAM. BAM is a firm that BAM is a firm that buy the debt from the bank, buy the debt from the financial institution, and they just sell the debt to other people. Okay, we have BAM, and we also have the JMT. JMT is another company in the stock market. We have Chayo. Chayo is in the market for alternative investment or MAI. Okay, BAM and JMTs are in the SET. Okay, SET. What is SET? The Stock Exchange of Thailand. Okay, the Stock Exchange of Thailand. So Chayo is quite a smaller company. So it is listed in the market for alternative investment or MAI. Okay, MAI. Both SET and MAI are very well known secondary market in Thailand. Okay. Okay. Now let's move to fact number 8. That contracts are extremely complicated. Okay. This one is quite straightforward because when you read the contract, you will see that there are lots of narrative or lots of complicated documents. Okay, because we need to try to enforce or try to encourage or try to discourage those people who borrow the money from us, right? And so, because we are talking about this fact, and in fact, all of these facts are from asymmetric information. All of these facts are the results of the asymmetric information. From fact number 1 to fact number 8, these are the results of asymmetric information. Okay, we have asymmetric information, and asymmetric information bring these facts into the world. Okay, asymmetric information brings these facts into the world. Now we are talking about asymmetric information. Okay, this one. This is I just took this diagram from Michigan and Aiken. This is a textbook that is always used in this class, but I just use this in some topics. I will switch to other textbook if I get a chance. Okay, for this one, it will show you the channels of financing. For the y-axis or the vertical axis, it is the number in percent, okay, percentage number. And for the horizontal axis, all of these ones are channels of financing. You see that we have bank loans, non-bank loans, okay. For this one and this one, for this one and this one, they are in direct finance. Okay, they are in direct finance. We obtain the funds through the banks, okay, or through the financial institutions. And on another side of the graph, which is this one, we have bonds and stocks. As you can observe from the diagram, you will see that the most popular ones is bank loan. Okay, this is the most popular one. And we call this empirical facts, okay? Empirical facts, because we just look for the fact in the data. These are not opinion, these are facts. And you can see that from the data, or from the empirical data, the business firms obtain funds from bank loans. This is the most popular one. Okay, this is the most popular one. The less popular ones are here, bonds and stocks. Okay, bonds and stocks, especially stocks. So you may think that this graph would a little bit different from the prior imagination of us. Before you study this course, you may think that, but I don't assume all of you, but some of you may think that bonds and stocks are the most important channels of funding, right? In fact, they are not. In fact, the most important one is the indirect finance, which is this one. Obtain the money through the banks. Okay. Now let's explore each fact in detail. Okay, the first one, fact number 1. In fact, the major reasons why people think that stocks are the most important one is because the media. Okay, because the media. When you read the financial newspapers, the most popular topics are the topics about stock market. Okay, stock rise, stock decline, the central bank increase the interest rate, and then the stock plummet or something. So the media will give you the illusions about the importance of the market. So this is not the truth. Okay, stocks are not the most important source. Now you know this one. Okay, stocks are not the most important source. The figure that I just mentioned here is the previous figure that I just talked about it. How many of you major in finance? Everyone in the class, right? Okay, thank you very much. Have you ever heard about the pecking order hypothesis? Pecking order hypothesis. Do you have any? So you can Google now. What is pecking order hypothesis? I should write it somewhere. So I write it. Pecking. Not pecking. Pecking order hypothesis. I will use the shorthand here. Pecking order hypothesis. Okay, pecking order hypothesis. When we are talking about the pecking order other hypothesis. We are talking about the hierarchy. Okay, the hierarchy of what? The hierarchy of the channels of financing. Okay, the hierarchy of the channels of financing. In fact, you can search this word in Google, and you will find that in fact, the most popular one that the firms use to finance the business is what? The most popular ones, or the less cost channels. Which one? The smallest cost that involve zero cost. Exactly, retained earning. In fact, we also have the opportunity cost of the retained earning. Okay, but I will talk only about the financial cost, not the opportunity cost. So the first one, the most popular one, is the retained earnings. The firm finance the business by the retained earnings. So this one you know it from the balance sheet, right? The balance sheet, the accounts that you show you when the firms when the firm in the system of the balance sheet, you know that when the firm profit from the operation, they will have the retained earning, and they can do the retained earning to finance the business or to pay the dividend, okay, to the investors. And what is the second one of the audit? When the firms cannot use the retained earning because it might be some technical problems. What is the second one? The second channels that firm obtain the fund. Sorry. Exactly, debt financing. The first one is a retained earning. The second one is debt. Or the firms can issue the corporate bond. Okay, the firms can issue the corporate bond. And the last one, the less popular ones, is the stocks or the equity. Retained earnings, corporate bond, and equity. You can see that we have a ranking here, and these are sorted by the cost. Okay, the cost. You will see that when the firm issue the stock, the firm will incur a high cost of issuing. Okay, very high cost of issuing, and this cost increase according to the degree of asymmetric information. Okay, this cost increase according to the degree of the asymmetric information. When the firm use the retained earning, there is no asymmetric information because that is the money that firm obtain from the operation. Okay, the firm obtains from the operation. So when the firm raise the fund through the corporate bond, the firm will incur some cost of issuing, but it is still less than the cost of issuing equity. Okay, we have the asymmetric information when we issue the corporate bond, but the decrease is less serious than the case of the equity. But when the firm issue the equity, so now we have maybe we call it the degree of the asymmetric information at the maximum level. So the cost of issuing these market securities will increase according to the degree of the asymmetric information. That is why stock is not the most popular one. Okay, fact number 2. Fact number 2 and fact number 1, it share the same reason. Issuing marketable debt and equities is not the primary way because it incurs lots of cost, and that cost increase because of the asymmetric information. When we issue debt or issue equity, we will face the problems of the asymmetric information in some degree. Okay, in some degree. So they are not the popular. They are not popular because they have a high cost of issuing. Okay. Now we move to the number 3. This one is about the indirect finance. Okay, this one is the indirect finance. As I mentioned earlier, that indirect finance is many times more important than direct finance. You can imagine about this fact. Suppose that you just run your own business, and when you try to obtain the fund, if you cannot use your retained earning, and if you cannot issue the corporate bond, what next? Sorry, if you cannot use your retained earning, before you before you issue the corporate bond, what will be your channel of financing? You can go to the bank and you can borrow the money from the bank, okay? Because the cost incurred in these channels is just the interest rate that the bank charge you, okay? That the bank charge you. But when you issue the corporate bond, the cost is a little bit higher because you need to hire the investment bankers, you need to hire some other people to be your consultant when you try to issue the corporate bond. And the people who study finance will be the experts in terms of issuing the corporate bond. And in terms of issuing the equity, we call those guys the investment bankers, okay? Investment bankers. And fact number 4, financial intermediaries are the most important. Fact number 3 and fact number 4 go together, okay? They come together. And you can see this word, external funds, okay? External funds. When we are talking about the indirect finance, okay? When we are talking about the indirect finance, we mean the financial intermediaries, right? We mean financial intermediaries. And we also have another term of this one. That term is external financing, okay? External financing. When we talk about the external financing, we mean borrowing from other people, right? So financial intermediaries can be included in these external financing. Issuing bond, issuing equities, those can be included in external financing too. But the less cost, the less likely to be the cost. This is one is a financial intermediary. So people tend to obtain the fund through the financial intermediaries rather than issuing those marketable securities. So financial intermediaries is the most important external financing of business, okay? Especially small medium enterprise, small medium enterprise. And you can see that if you subscribe to the Facebooks of the Bank of Thailand, you can see that we have lots of policies nowadays to help the business, such as soft loan, and others policies that we try to implement to let the business sustain their operation. Otherwise, lots of business will have to go out, okay, because they don't have enough money to finance their operation. Okay, fact number 5 and fact number 6. For this one, I will talk about it later because fact number 5 and fact number 6 are the results of the asymmetric information, directly the results of the asymmetric information. Fact number 5, fact number 6, fact number 7, and fact number 8 too. Sorry. Fact number 5, number 6, number 7, and number 8. All of them are results of asymmetric information, namely adverse selection and moral hazard. Okay, adverse selection and moral hazard. These features come from asymmetric information, namely adverse selection and moral hazard. Okay. Okay, before we proceed to the asymmetric information, I will just give you the overviews of the financial institution first, the function and the roles of the financial institutions. You can see that the financial institution, I will talk on the slide. You can see that from the views of the financial institution. It is the institution that channels the funds to people with the productive investment opportunity. Okay. So the people we have the surplus, or sometimes we call them the lender, or we call them the surplus unit. The surplus unit will have the money, excess money, and then they can deposit the money in the bank, and then after that, bank will channel the money to the people who have the productive investment opportunities. And the reasons why we have the financial institution, you can see for this one. The first one is monitoring cost, the second one is agency cost. Okay, what is monitoring cost? And why monitoring cost is important till we have the financial institution? What is monitoring cost? Any idea about this one? What is monitoring cost? Any examples? Remember, no right, no wrong. Everything just perspective. Okay. What is monitoring cost? Can you give me an example? Okay, thank you very much. Correct. In fact, the monitoring cost, we mean time and money. Okay, when you lend the money to some people, if you don't have the third party to be your delegate, you need to check. You need to keep your borrower in check, and you need to follow them in every step. Okay, so it is very costly in terms of time and money. We have the financial institution because financial institution help reduce this cost. Okay, help reduce this cost. And the second one, agency cost. Have you ever heard about this term before? Agency cost. Agency cost. In fact, we talk a lot about agency cost in moral hazard, I think. Because you can see that agency cost is the conflict, okay? The conflict between the objective of the owner of the money and the users of the money, okay? Those two groups may always have a conflict in terms of the objective. Okay? So we call this one agency cost. And we also have FIs because it also provides with the liquidity and it will help us reduce price risk. What is price risk? In bond market, you're going to have the midterm exam, right? What is the price risk of bond? What is the price risk in terms of bond? I may ask a wrong question. Let me just form a new question. I think so. What is the price risk? What is the risk when you hold a bond? What is the risk when you hold a bond? Please. What is the risk when you hold in the bond? No worry, just not to know in this class. Okay. What is the risk when you hold a bond? Okay, exactly. Interest rate risk, right? Because the price of the bond or the bond values respond to the changes in the interest rate in the market. When the interest rate goes up, what will happen to the price of the bond? The price of the bond goes down, right? Goes down. So suppose that you hold the bond and you sell the bond at the time, you will experience the capital loss. Okay, capital loss. Okay, capital loss. So we call that price risk. You buy high and sell low. Okay? Buy high and sell low. Okay, this is the price risk. Okay, now let's explore each topic in detail. What's time now? Okay, we still have time. Okay, I think I will try to speed up this lecture. This is what I just talked with you already, liquidity and high risk and the functions of the financial institution. Okay, I would like to talk a little bit about the indirect transfers. Okay, the financial institutions provide the indirect transfers, which is the transfers of the funds between supplier of the fund and the user of the fund. When we talk about the supply of the fund, we mean the surplus unit, okay, the surplus unit. And when we talk about the users of the fund, we mean the deficit unit or the people who need money to finance their business, okay. So you can see that we call it this one, the indirect transfers, okay, or indirect finance, okay, or indirect finance. It is the same things, okay, it is the same things. We transfer the money from one unit to another unit through the financial intermediary. The financial intermediary is gonna be our third party. Okay, I try to emphasize this one. because when I ask you what is indirect financing, you may have to give me the correct answers because I just talked a lot about this one. Okay, this is what we call the indirect financing. Okay, now let's see the service benefits of the to the supplier of the funds. These are benefits that the surplus unit will obtain from the financial intermediaries. Okay, let's see the first one. Monitoring costs. Okay, monitoring costs. In fact, I would like to talk about the economy of scale. Okay, let's see this one. Suppose that you just provide or you just lend people with the money, right? And as your friend talked about this already. If this is just a private transaction between you and your friend, you may have to check your friend every day, right? You call them every day. You just incur the cost in terms of time and in terms of money, right? So when we have the third party that will function those tasks for you, okay? This third parties is the financial intermediary. And why financial intermediaries? Um, why financial intermediaries are willing to perform this task for you? Why? Do you have any idea why financial intermediaries are willing to perform this task instead of let you, okay, this is your money, and so you go and check your borrower. Why? The incentive. What are the incentives of the financial intermediaries for this one? To reduce monitoring costs. Do you have any idea? As you can see, the financial intermediaries obtain the fund through deposit. When we talk about the financial intermediaries here in this class, I would like to make it as simple as possible. So I mean the commercial bank, okay? When the commercial bank obtain the money, the commercial bank obtain the money through the deposit, right? Through the deposit. Lots of people deposit the money in the bank. And you can think if you deposit your money in the bank, you can think that you are the lender, and the commercial bank is just your borrower. Okay, it's just a borrower, and the commercial bank pools monies from different people in the economic system, and then, as I mentioned earlier, the commercial banks will engage in the mismatching maturity mismatch transaction because the commercial bank borrow from the short-term fund. Okay, your deposits are the short-term fund because tomorrow if you would like to withdraw your money, you can go to the bank and then you can withdraw your money. Okay, so we call it the short-term fund. But when the bank lend the money to the people, okay, to the peoples in their business, they will lend the money in the long-term transaction. So the structure of the bank is really fragile, So this is gonna be the incentive that the banks has to monitor, their borrowers, okay, because this is the incentive. Otherwise, the bank will be bankrupt. Okay, be bankrupt. So this is going to be the incentive. And as you can see that when bank gators or when banks combine or pool lots of money from different people, it means that the funds at banks are really large. Okay. So when bank incur in this monetary cost, the cost is lower compared with you. Okay, when you try to call your friends to ask them to return you with the money, you just pay the mobile phone fee or something, right, per transaction. But for the bank, because banks have a large funds, this cost is relatively low compared to the fund, right? We call this the economy of scales. The cost per transaction is lower. The cost per transaction is lower because bank has a larger fund than you. Okay, but when you just incur in this transaction, that cost is really high, okay? But with the bank, it is really lower because bank has a lot of money, okay? We talk about size here, we talk about size, so that's why we use this word scale. So this one is economy of scales. The bigger, the cheaper. The bigger, the cheaper. Okay, the bigger, the cheaper. So bank benefit from the economy of scales. That's why bank has the incentive to monitor the transaction. Okay, so this is the benefit that you obtain from the bank. And another reasons that bank help to reduce the monetary cost is that because of the incentive of the bank, because bank put lots of money, right? Bank tend to have the incentive to hire experts in the field or to hire people who know finance. Okay, because these people who work for the bank will help the bank to screen, the borrower with high qualities. Otherwise, bank will lend the money to the bad credit rather than good credit. Okay. So banks also have the incentive to protect their money. Bank have the incentive to hire the experts to help bank screen the business that try to obtain the funds from the bank. So bank will end up with high quality borrower. Okay, will end up with high quality borrower because bank have the screening process. Okay, bank have the screening process. I will jump to this one first. Delegate monitor. As a result, above all, when I talk about the incentives of the bank, we are talking about delegate monitor because bank is going to be your delegate monitor. You don't need to monitor the transaction. Bank will do it for you. Okay, bank will do it for you because bank has the incentive to do that with lower cost than you. Okay, with lower cost than you. And another benefit of the banks, we come to this term again, the fee rider problem. Before discussing this point, could you please give me the example of fee rider? What is fee rider? Any idea, please? What is fee rider?
Like people that use public property but don't pay any tax.
Okay, thank you very much. Have you ever worked in group work? Okay, I'm sorry. If you work in group, you will know this word really clearly, fee rider. Sorry, I know that you guys are really diligent students. I just kidding. Okay, let's talk about it. Fee rider. What is fee rider? Sorry. In fact, fee riders is a problem that some people enjoy the benefits from the public resource. Okay, public resource. But they don't pay for that. Why? Some of you pay for that resource. Okay. We call the first group the fee riders. People who enjoy the benefit of resource without paying anything, but they just enjoy. Why? In the societies, we also have another group that pay for that resource. Okay, to make it more clearly, but it's just a hypothetical examples. Okay, don't take it serious. Suppose that you work in group. Okay, you work in group, you and your friend. You exert very high effort for your group work, and your friend did nothing for that group work. Okay. After that, eventually, a lecturer or a teacher just award you the same grade. Okay, but you exert very high effort. Your friend did nothing, but they got the same grade as you. Okay, you can think the grade as the resource. Okay, and if you remember, I just talked about the people who don't pay for the resource, right? When we talk about paying, we mean money, right? But in this example, we mean the effort that people assert in the world. So you can think about effort, you can think about time, you can think about money as the cost of doing something. People who assert no effort but receive the same awards as you, why you assert very high effort, we call that person's free rider. Okay, free rider. What is the result of the free rider? What is the result of the free rider? When the system has a free rider, what exists? What will be the result of this one? The transaction will not occur. Why? Because you know that, okay, if I assert effort or not assert effort, I will also receive the same grade as a friend who assert nothing. So why do I need to assert effort? Right? I will end up doing nothing. So the transaction or the good work will not be occur. We call this one market failure. Market failure. When we have the free riders in the system, it will prevent the market mechanism to work. Okay? The market will fail if we have the free rider. Okay, this is about free rider. Now you know free rider. Okay, this one. This is just very straightforward. For this one, is a benefit from the financial institutions in terms of liquidity and price risk. Okay, and when I talk about before talking about liquidity and price risk, I would like to talk about the asset transformation. Bank just buy the financial claims issued by users of fund. Okay, and then selling financial claims to households or the investor. Okay, in the form of deposits, insurance policy, and others. I think this message is too long. You can think about this one. Bank transform the short-term asset into the long-term asset. Okay, banks transform the short-term asset into the long-term asset. Your deposit at the bank are the short-term asset of you. Okay? So you just deposit your short-term asset to the bank. When bank borrow or when bank hold that asset, bank will treat it as their liability to the banks. And after that, bank transforms that short-term asset into the long-term asset. But the long-term asset is the asset of the bank. In order to make it more clearly, I think I would like to go to this one first. Okay, this one. This is just the balance sheet of a commercial bank. We have the asset side and we have the liability side and the capital side or the equity side. You can see that this liability is just a short-term liability. Okay, you deposit the money here, and bank just use the money from you to transform into the long-term asset to the bank, such as the mortgage loan, the household loan, okay, the business loan. Mortgage loans, I think, is take 20 years or 30 years or something. When people borrow money from the bank and they have to pay back the money to the bank, it will take 20 years or something. If you study financial mathematics, when we talk about the mortgage, we are talking about amortization. Have you ever heard about amortization? Right? Okay. When we talk about the amortization, we mean the mortgage here. Okay, you will see that when we compute the amortization, you will have 20 years, 30 years, or 10 years. These are really long term. Okay, this is what we call the asset transformation. Where is my slide? Okay, this one. Okay, asset transformation. So when banks engage in the asset transformation, the results of the asset transformation will help the bank to have the liquidity. As a result of this, the banks can provide the liquidity to you, because when you deposit the money today, right, and tomorrow you may have to have to do some business and you have to use the money, you can go to the bank and you can immediately withdraw money from the bank, right? You can immediately withdraw the money from the bank, and the bank will be able to pay you back. Okay, will be able to pay you back. So this is what we call the liquidity service. The liquidity service. When the depositor would like to get back the money, the bank will be very ready. Will be very ready to give the depositors with money. Okay, this is the liquidity service. We talk about the asset transformation, right? One thing about the asset side of the bank is the diversification. It's a diversification because when banks manage, when banks engage in the asset management, they can lend the money to the household, they can lend the money to the business, and they can use the money to invest in the financial market too. So we call this kind of transactions the diversification. That is why when you go to the bank in the morning and you withdraw the money, bank can be ready to give you the money because bank has some asset that is very bank has some asset with very high liquid. In fact, it is cash. Okay, it is cash. So bank can just pay you back if you would like to withdraw the money. And bank can obtain this property by diversification. Okay. The next one, reducing the transaction cost. I think you guys may be very familiar with the word Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin. Have you ever heard about Bitcoin? What is the structure? Okay. What is the system that we use Bitcoin? The system that we use Bitcoin. We call what do we call? We call it the system. What is the Bitcoin involved in some system? Okay. What is the system? Blockchain. Okay, blockchain. Nowadays, many commercial banks try to research and try to develop the blockchain system and use that blockchain system to transfer the money. Okay, to transfer the money. This will be very highly secure. Okay, will be very highly secure, and will be very low. And this transaction will take very low cost of transaction. Okay, but this one is just took from the textbook. So at the time we have no blockchain. So that's why in the textbook they just do the economy of scales and the E-trade to explain why the financial institution can help you to reduce the transaction cost. In textbook, they will tell you that because bank has a really large fund, so when banks engage in the transaction, the cost per transaction of the bank is really lower because this one economy of scales. But nowadays, when we implement the blockchain into the system, it's not only reducing the cost, it will help your transaction more secure. Okay? When we talk about the blockchain, we mean the security, the efficiencies, and reducing the cost. Okay? So E-trade, you can use the blockchain instead. Okay, the next one is maturity intermediation. For this one, the bank will provide the maturity. The bank will provide the maturity to the people who deposit the money here. How can the bank provide the maturity to people? Bank can obtain this feature through diversification because in the asset size of the bank hold the asset with different maturity. Okay, bank holds asset with different maturity. So when you would like to engage in a long-term transaction and you would like to borrow from the bank, you can go to the bank and you can borrow the money. Bank can fulfill this transaction even if it's long-term or medium-term. Okay, so we call it the maturity intermediation. bank obtain this feature through diversification. It is straightforward, I think. Okay, this one, denomination intermediation. What is denomination here in this context? What is denomination? Do you have any idea what is denomination? Student compare iPhone to it. What is denomination? What is denomination in this context? Any answer, please? Because I feel sore throat now. What is denomination in this one? In this context? Do you have any idea what is denomination here in our context? Sorry. In fact, it is the face value of your banknote. The face value of the banknote. 20 baht, 100 baht. Okay. Or when we talk about bond, we mean the face values of the bond. The denomination intermediation is that. Okay. Okay. End of the class. No, just kidding. Okay, I know that you guys would like to prepare for your exam now, but anyway, let's listen to this one because I think it cannot do in midterm exam. But in my topic, don't worry, this will not be included in your midterm exam. It will be your final exam. So you just study with a little bit ahead of the time. Okay. So this one, denomination means the face value of the banknotes or the face value of the securities. The denomination intermediation is when you have, I will use very simple, when you have small money and you would like to invest in the big money. Have you ever heard about NCD? What is NCD? NCD, what is NCD? What is NCD? This one, we call this one NCD, Negotiable Certificate of Deposit. Okay. It also has a word in Thai, but I will not give you a word in Thai. But we call it NCD. NCD is a kind of the security in money market. Okay. Can you distinguish between money market and capital market? I think you guys can distinguish, right? What is money market? What is money market? Seriously, what is money market? Any idea? Excuse me, have you ever studied the money market and capital market before? The difference between these two? Yes, thank you very much. Time frame, correct, time frame. In money market, they trade the very short-term security, less than 1 year, okay, less than or equal 1 year in money market. NCD is a security in money market. We call it negotiable certificate of deposit. The face value of the NCD vary across the commercial bank. I used to see NCDs of some banks with the face values equal 500,000 baht. 500,000 baht for one NCD. Okay. Suppose that, but let's imagine because you guys are very rich, right? Suppose that we have the salary just for 50,000. Suppose we have salary 50,000. Okay, just the start. Just the start. 50,000 are your salary, and you have to buy or you would like to invest in NCD. You need to use the money 500,000. Okay, 500,000. So you have to work for 10 months, right? 10 months. Because if you have salaries, 50,000 for your salary, you may have to work for 10 months. You will obtain 500,000, right? So you need to work 10 months for one NCD. And how are you saving? You will not have any saving. And how about if you would like to invest in stock market or would you like to invest in the bond market? You cannot invest in other market if you buy one NCD. Okay. However, the financial institution help you. Suppose that you buy the unit trust or you invest in the mutual fund. The mutual fund will pool the money all together. Okay, and then the mutual fund will use that money to invest in different types of assets all around the world. In some cases, okay, in some cases they invest in different assets all around the world. So with small money, you can invest in asset or you can invest in security with very large denomination. This is the service of the financial institution, especially the mutual fund. Okay, essentially the mutual fund. Mutual fund is also the financial institution too. Okay, this is what we call the denomination intermediation. I will skip this one. I will skip. Okay, this one. This one is the example of the corporate bond. I think yes, the corporate bond. But this one issued by minor, but this is just very old one. For this one, in fact, I would like to show you the denomination intermediation, because you can see that you have to invest when you would like to buy a corporate bond. You may have to have 100,000 for one corporate bond, I think. So you cannot invest in other different types of assets. Okay. Above all, I just talked about the benefits of the financial institutions to people who are relevant to the financial institutions. And this one, I will talk about the benefit of the financial institutions to the macroeconomy. But I will not emphasize this one because this one you can study from macroeconomics instead of these modules. Okay. I will show only transmission of monetary policies as examples of the services that is provided to the macroeconomy. When the central banks implement their monetary policies by announcing to raise the interest rate, the short-term interest rate, or to lower the key policy rate, the bank can do it through the market operation. The market operation. We call it the open market operation. When we talk about the open market operation, typically we talk about the open market purchase and open market sale. It is the buying and selling of the government bond, okay, in the balance sheet of the commercial bank, okay, in the balance sheet of the commercial bank, and it will somehow affect the interest rate in the market. So for this one, suppose that the central bank lower the interest rate, it will affect the cost of borrowing at the commercial bank too. So it will somehow reinforce the economic activities. The bank will work as a channel of the effect of monetary policy. Okay, the bank will serve as a channel of the effect of the monetary policies. This is the examples of the service to the overall economy. We still have 30 minutes. Okay. Let's go. This one I will skip because it is too macroeconomics. I think too macroeconomics. How many of you study macroeconomics? Raise your hand, please. Macroeconomics. Have you ever heard about this one? Macroeconomics. Okay, very good. You know GDP, right? GDP. What is GDP? Okay, very good. This one. Okay, I will talk a little bit about this one. When we talk about the transmission mechanisms of the monetary policy, we mean the central bank implement the monetary policy and try to affect the interest rate in the market. Okay, because changes in the interest rate will somehow affect the behavior of the lender and the borrower, and this will affect the economic activity. Lower interest rate will boost the economic activities. And when we have lots of economic activities, we have higher real GDP. Because real GDP measure the real economic activity. Higher real GDP means we have lots of money in real term. Okay, lots of money in real term. So economics boom. Okay, economics boom. Or economics prosper. Our economic is in prosperities. Okay. So the banks or the thieves or the financial institution serves as the channel of this one. And the effect, when I would like to talk about this one a little bit, and when the central bank implement their monetary policies, the monetary policy is very effective only in the short run. Okay, only in the short run. By effectiveness, I mean the monetary policy can affect the real economic activity. So it will affect the real economic activity only in the short run. Okay, only in the short run. But in the long run, the monetary policy cannot affect the real economic activity. It will affect only the price level. The price level. This equation shows the logic, but I will not emphasize, but I will write it down here because some of you may want to know about this one. M stands for money. Okay, if you don't understand this one, don't worry. Okay, but I would like to explain because I touch you. M stands for money. V for velocity. Velocity is the speed of the money that change from hand to hand. Equal price, P is price, Y is a real GDP. Y measure the real economic activities. Suppose that we analyze the effect of monetary policy in the short run. In the short run, the price here is fixed. Okay, the price is fixed. Suppose that the central banks increase the level of the money. Money here increase this one constant, right? In order to hold this equation equal this one. So you can see that when the central bank increase the money, this side of the equation is higher than the side, okay? In order to obtain the equality, you can see that P is fixed, so P cannot move, okay? P cannot move. Y must increase instead. Y is real GDP. So in short run, when we have the price fixed, the central bank increase the money will affect the real economic activities. On the contrary, in the long run, when the central bank increase the money, in the long run, Y is fixed. We call this one potential output. Potential output. This one is fixed. In the long run, when the central bank increase the money, P here will increase. P is a price level. Okay. So in the long run, the monetary policy is not effective because the effect of the monetary policy will be in price rather than economic activity. So that's all about the MV equal P1. Credit allocation, this one I will skip. Okay, this one, intergenerational wealth transfers. When your parents would like to deposit the money for you, they can do the service from the bank. They can deposit the money in the banks, and you can use the money from them. When someday when they are not in this world, you can have the money from your parents because the bank will keep them for you. Okay, we call this the intergenerational transfers. Okay, human service things. I think this one you know about this. Bank also provide a service we call it the payment services when you integrate the transaction with the check. Okay, with the check, you can deposit the check at the bank, and the bank will have the credit house, and you can engage in the transaction without having any cash in your hand. You can write check and you check in the transaction. Okay, I just talked about the benefits of the financial institution. And now I will move to the risk associated with a commercial bank. We have lots of risk here, but I will emphasize here default and credit risk and the liquidity risk and insolvency risk. Okay, I'm sorry. Default risk, interest rate risk, liquidity risk, and insolvency risk. What I'm gonna emphasize in the class, but I will give you the definitions of all this one. Okay, let's see the first one. Default risk. What is default risk? What is default risk? When you invest in bond, have you ever heard about the default free bond? What is default free bond? Default free bond. What is default free bond? Yes, correct. When we talk about default free bond, what do we mean? Yes, we mean government bond. Because the government has zero risk of default, okay? Government can pay back the money without the default risk, okay? Default risk is the risk that when you lend the money to some people, that people cannot repay the money back in time, or they can repay the money back, but not in full. Okay, they cannot repay in full. So we call this one default risk. For the bank also experience or bank also face the default risk too, because the asset size of the bank here in the balance sheet, it involves lots of borrowers, okay, different types of borrowers. When some borrower cannot pay their money back, and when bank try to classify the borrowers, they will have the non-performing loan in the asset side too. What is a non-performing loan? The loans that bank cannot obtain the money back within 1 year. Okay, that borrower cannot pay the money back to the bank in 1 year. So we call it the non-performing loan. Suppose bank has the non-performing loan in the asset. What will be the effect of the non-performing loan? Okay, it will somehow lead to the insolvency risk. But anyways, I will talk about this one later. Okay, let's just go through all of this one. Next is foreign exchange rate risk. As you know that banks invest in different types of assets because it's trying to diversify in the assets as much as possible. So bank can invest in the asset from other countries. Changes in the foreign exchange rate somehow is affect the values of the asset size of the commercial bank too. If we have the really high volatilities in the if we have very high volatility in the foreign exchange market, that volatility somehow will transfer into the fluctuation in the value of the asset size of the bank too. Okay? When the value of the asset size of the bank fluctuates a lot, it will affect what? Liability or equity of the bank. Right? It will affect equity of the bank, right? Because liability can be fixed. Liabilities is from depositor. Deposit the money at the bank. Okay, so this one is fixed. I think you guys know this equation: asset equal liability plus equity, right? In our case, liability keep constant because this one is exogenously determined. Sorry, exogenously determined. It means that the depositor deposit the money here, so bank cannot influence the behavior of the depositor. Okay, so I will set it constant. Suppose that the assets go up. This one, the value here is fixed, right? So E will be up. Suppose the assets go down, E also down, okay? Because this one we keep it fixed. And this equation must be equal, okay? Must be equal. Suppose that we have high volatility in the foreign exchange market. That volatility will be transferred into the volatility in the asset. All in all, it will be the volatility in equity too. Okay. Okay, the next one is the sovereign risk. Have you ever heard about sovereign risk before? What is sovereign risk? The risk associated to the country. When you invest your money in country with the, I don't know how to give this example because it will be relevant to the government. So I will try not to talk about the government here in the class. Okay, sovereign risk is the risk associated to the country. Okay, different countries have different administrative regimes. Okay, so different administrative regimes contribute to the different risks associated to the investment. Okay, now I think you understand. This is what we call the sovereign risk. You buy bond from Germany. You buying bond from Germany is different from buying bond from Greece. Okay, because the government there's really difference, even though they have the monetary union. Okay, next is interest rate risk. I think you guys are really familiar with the interest rate risk because this one we just borrow this word from bond market, right? When the interest rate goes up, the value of the security goes down. I think you know about this one. And what is the risk when the interest rates go down for the bond? What do we call it? When the interest rates go down, what is the risk associated to the bond? We call it the reinvestment rate risk. Reinvestment rate risk. When the interest rate goes up, the price of the bonds go down, right? We call it the interest rate risk here. And we also apply the same logic with the value of the asset side of the bank too. Okay, we call it interest rate risk. But for the bond, when the interest rate goes down, the bond with the callable bond or the bond with call option will experience the reinvestment rate risk because the bond issuers will call the bond back and issue the new set of the bond with lower interest rate. So the investors of the bond with the call option will experience the reinvestment rate risk. Okay, this is the risk associated to the bond. Next one, market risk or asset price risk. This one is the risk to the whole market, okay, or balance sheet risk. This one is the risk that we can use the derivatives, okay, the derivative to diversify. We can use the derivative to hedge the risk that we call the off balance sheet. Okay, the next one is the liquidity risk. This one is the risk associated to the financial institutions when the financial institution cannot give you the money. Suppose that you would like to withdraw the money from the financial institution and the financial institution cannot give you. So this one, we call it the liquidity risk to the commercial bank or to the financial institution. Technological risk and operational risk is the risk associated to the shock from the technology. Okay, the shock from technologies or the disruption or the technological disruption. Sometimes disruption is both risk and opportunity. So I'm not sure about this one because sometimes I don't think it is a risk. It can be the opportunity. So just skip it. Okay, the last one is the insolvency risk. What is the insolvency risk? I will get back to this balance sheet again. As I mentioned a lot about the asset, liability, and equity. You can see this one is the asset side of the commercial bank, right? So the source of assets can be divided into two sources. The first one here is the liability. The liability is fixed because the bank cannot influence the behavior of the depositors. Okay, so this one is the equity. Suppose that some items here we call it the NPL. We mean that the bank cannot collect the money back from this group of borrowers. Okay, so when the bank cannot collect the money back, the values of the assets goes down. When the value of the assets goes down, liability cannot go down because it's fixed. As a result of this, equity will be decreasing. Okay, will be decreasing. Suppose that the value here less than 0. What will happen to the bank? We will have the situation we call it bank 1. Okay, bank 1. In financial economics and in economics, we also have the diamond and Dipwick model. Diamond and Dipwick models describes the process of bank 1. Oops, diamond and Dipwick. Diamond and Dipwick. Okay, oops. Okay, this one. Diamond and Dipwick models is a models of bank ones. Models of bank ones. And this can relate the bank ones to the financial crisis. Okay, it can relate bank ones to the financial crisis. It explains something that occurred in the balance sheet of the commercial bank. Okay, if you feel interested in this topic, you can read the Diamond and Dipwick models. But it is mathematical approach, and you need to know the game theory. We use the Nash equilibrium or something. So if you would like to know more on this one, you can talk to me later. Okay, but this one is Diamond Dipwick model. It's explained or it describes the process of the bank 1. Okay. Okay, this one we call the insolvency risk. It's a risk that the equity here has the value less than 0. So bank runs or bank cannot run business. A bank go out of the business. The firm here has to shut down. Okay, regulation of FI. What time now? We have 10 minutes. Tomorrow you're gonna have the midterm exam, right? At what time? 9. How many of you will have the midterm exam tomorrow? Raise your hand, please. 1, 2, 3. Oh, only 4 people. Okay. Okay. Regulation of FI. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. So if I know that we have only 4 people, I will not speed up my lecture. Okay, now let's see regulation of FI. FI also get involved in the regulation. The institutions that implement the regulations to the financial institutions is the Security Commissions of. Let me show you the website. SEC, Security Commission, Exchange, sorry. No. Securities, Exchange and Commission, sorry. Security, Exchange and Commission. In Thai it is Golota, but I will try to read it. Okay, this one. Securities and Exchange Commission. This is the. I'm sorry about this one. This one I talk about the financial institution, right? I'm sorry, but I will talk about this one too. This is the Security Exchange and Commission. This one will be the regulator will be the regulator for financial market, But for the financial institution, we also have this one. It is the committee at the Bank of Thailand. This one, Financial Institution Policy Committee. This one. This is also the regulators or the peoples or the organization that decide the regulations for the financial institution. Okay. So securities, exchange and commissions, that organizations implement the regulations to the financial market. But for this one, FIPC just issues the regulation that govern the financial institution in the economy. Okay. We will go to asymmetric information and then I think I will let you go. 11. Okay. Now let's move to the very important concepts of this class, which is the asymmetric information. Asymmetric information is the major reason why we have financial institutions in our financial system or in our economies. If we don't have financial institutions and the asymmetric information exists in the system, the financial transactions will not occur. Okay, will not occur. What is asymmetric information? Have you ever come across this term before? Some of you, I think some of you have studies about this one. What is asymmetric information? Do you have any idea about this one? Please just give me some examples of this. No worry, there is no wrong here. Any examples of asymmetric information? Please. It is just borrowing and lending. Okay. What is asymmetric information? Asymmetric information is the disparity of information. Okay, the disparities of information. Why we call it the disparity or why we call it asymmetric? Because when we engage in financial transaction, the simple one is the borrowing and lending, right? We have two sides of the transaction, borrower and lender, And one side of the transactions has more information compared to the other side of the transaction. So we have asymmetric level or asymmetric degree of information here. One side of the transaction knows about the transaction better than the other side. So we call this situation asymmetric information. And when we talk about the asymmetric information, we mean adverse selection and moral hazard. Okay, adverse selection and moral hazard. Oops. Today I will talk only adverse selection. Okay, and then I will let you go. Okay, let's see. The theory that we use to describe the asymmetric information in economics, we use the agency theory. Okay, the agency theory. In fact, the asymmetric information, as I mentioned earlier, it is the disparity of information of the two sides of the financial transaction. And a good example of this in the context of finance, you can think about the managers of the corporations and the stockholder of the corporation. Okay, the managers will have more information about the business compared to the stockholder. So for this one, we have the disparities of information here in the transaction. The first one here is the adverse selection. Okay, adverse selection occurs before the transaction. Keyword is before. Before you engage in the transaction, we will confront with a problem called the adverse selection. Suppose that if you were borrowers, and some people knock the door and just ask you for the money, you have to make a decision whether you will give them the money or not. Okay, that problem is the adverse selection because you don't know exactly who they are, and you don't know exactly what they will use your money. Why? In reality, potential bad credit guys, okay, potential bad credit guys are those people who are really active, to find money, okay, to seek money. Those bad credit guys are those people who are very active to seek for money, to seek loans, okay. And these kinds of people or these bad credit guys tend to produce bad results. What do I mean by the word bad results? It means that they may use the monies in some undesirable outcome and they cannot pay money back. Okay, and they cannot pay money back. So this is your knowledge. You know that okay, bad credit guys are those who are very active to find or to seek for the money. Okay. As a result of this one, will you lend them the money? Will you lend them the money? If you know that lots of people who are actively seeking for the money are those bad credit guys, will you give them the money? No, right? No. So this one, you can see that when we have the adverse selection in the system, this adverse selection prevents the economic transaction or prevent the financial transaction. So the transaction will not occur. So let's think it in another way. Suppose that the good credit guys knock the door, but you cannot distinguish between the good credit and the bad credit. Will you lend them the money? No, because you don't know them, right? Because you don't know them. This one is the problem of the adverse selection. Even those guys are very good credit, they will not obtain the money from you because you tend to believe that people who see credit or who see money are bad credit because you cannot distinguish. Okay? If you can distinguish, it means that you have some information. But for this one, you don't have the information about the people, okay, who come into your house. So the transaction here will not occur. The transaction here will be not occur. Okay? And moral hazard here, moral hazard is a situation that occurs after the transaction. The transaction here has been occurred already. Imagine that when you, I don't know, you guys are in year 2, right? I don't know if you have boyfriend or girlfriends or not. But for this one, it means that the situation that when you have boyfriend or girlfriend already, right? You have a boyfriend or girlfriend already. You will see that your boyfriend or your girlfriend, they may change behavior. Okay, they may change behavior after you and your boyfriend or your girlfriend just be a couple already, right? We call this situation moral hazard. People tend to deviate from the desirable behavior into the undesirable behavior. Okay. And this one, in the context of finance, we mean that people who borrow the money, or people who have already obtained the money, they tend to use the money in the undesirable way. Okay, in the undesirable way. Compare with the objective of the owner of the money. We have the conflict here between the borrower and the lender. Borrower use the money in another way, which is different from what the lender would like they to use. Okay, this one is a moral hazard. Moral hazard, and because of moral hazard, the financial transaction will not occur. So, adverse selection and moral hazards, both of them are asymmetric information. If they exist in the financial system, it will prevent the financial transaction. The transaction will not be occurred. Okay, so the financial system will not deliver the efficiency. This is what we call the market failure. Okay, now so we will talk about this one, and then I will let you go. Lemon market. Okay. Have you ever heard about lemon market? What is lemon market? What is lemon market? When we talk on this one, I will talk about the adverse selection. Okay. When we talk about adverse selection, in every textbooks out around the world, we'll talk about lemon market as the evidence of the adverse selection. What is lemon market? What is this kind of market? Any idea, please? What is lemon market? Market that sell food, right? Lemon market here. In the I think in the textbook they use the market for the user's car, right? The second-hand car. In fact, when we talk about lemons market, we mean market for low quality goods. Market for low quality goods. We call them lemons. Okay, we call them lemons. The low quality good, the low credit guys, or the very or the people who is willing to take higher risk in a very undesirable way. We use the word lemon to describe them. Okay. So lemon market here, I will use the example of the market for the second-hand car or the market for user's car. This evidence comes from the paper by Robert Akerlof. Robert Akerlof here. Robert Akerlof. Hey, Robert Akerlof. Robert Akerlof. Oops, sorry. Oh no, Robert Akerlof is son. I cannot remember his father names. Akerlof. Okay, George Akerlof, not Robert Akerlof. Robert is son. George is a person who come up with the model that explain the mechanism in the market for the second-hand car or the market for user's car. George Akerlof, and he earned the Nobel Prize by the studies of the market for the user's car. Okay. Now I think he's in Georgetown University. Okay, this guy is Robert Akerlof. He's very famous for the his studies of the market for user's car because it explains the mechanisms because it explains the effects of the adverse selections to the mechanism in the market. Okay. Okay. Now let's see. I will just explain inward, and you can read from the slide. Suppose that you go to the market for the user's car, and you have the car that you would like to sell in this market. What is the price that you would like to sell your car if you go to the market for user's car? What is the price that you would like to get from selling this car? Suppose that you guys are the owner of the user's car, okay? You know the quality of your car because it's your car. And then you go to the market for user's car and you would like to sell your car to the market. What is the price that you would like to sell?
The price that compensates for the price that compensates for the quality of the car.
Okay, thank you. Correct. I will. Would you mind if I just translate your word into my word? Okay. The price that compensates for the quality of the car. In fact, the price that we would like to obtain from selling the car is the average price. Okay. The average price between the car in that market. Okay. The average price of the car. However, when you go to the market, we have the dealer of the car, right? We have the dealer of the car, and then you know the quality of the car. Naturally, the dealers have experience with lots of people come to this market, come to sell their cars to the market, and because of those people who are the owner of the car, they know the quality of the car, right? The dealers don't know the quality of the car exactly. This is the asymmetric information. The owner of the car has more information about the product. than the dealer. Okay, than the dealer. But the transaction here will not take place. We just in the process of thinking to sell the cars, and you just go to the market, but you haven't sold the car yet. Okay. So the price that the dealer will offer you is the average price of the car. Suppose that you know that your car is Porsche and you just use it only 1 to 2 times or 1 to 2 times. Will you be willing to sell your car in this market? Suppose that you know that your car is not lemon. You know that your car is very high quality car, but you just use it, but you know it is very high quality car. Will you accept the average price? Normally, no. Because the average price will reflect the price of the bad or the low quality car. If you know that your price should be higher than the average price in the market, you will not sell. Okay, you will not sell your car, which is a used car with a very high quality in the market. Okay, let's take it in another way. Suppose that you own a car and you know that this is very bad car, and the dealer offer you the average price. Will you sell the car or not? Normally, the low quality car will have the price less than the average. Okay. If the dealers offer the average price, you will be willing to sell the car to the dealer because you will earn the margins from the average price and the real price of your car if you have the very low quality car. Okay, but if you have the high quality car, you tend to engage in loss because the price that you receive and the average price will be lower than the real price that you know. As a result of this, the product in the market for used car will be low quality goods because the average price drive the good quality cars out of the market. Okay? So the market will have only the low quality car. This is the problem of the adverse selection to the market for the used car. So to recap, the market for used car will have only the low quality car. We call the low quality car lemons. So that is why we call it lemon market. Okay, lemon market is the market that contains only the low quality goods and services because the average price drive out the high quality good out of this market. Okay, this is the results of the adverse selection. Okay, I think some of you will have the exam tomorrow, right? I will let you go and we will have the next class after the midterm. Okay, thank you very much. If you have any questions of this lecture, you can ask me after the class. Okay, thank you very much. ขอบคุณนะครับ